All right, everybody, welcome back to the OffBeat Sports Podcast presented by. Today, I am joined by our co-hosts Harry and Aidan, and then we got my boy Koach Kistner on it, coach at Springfield College, and he's currently on the market. So any college programs or high school programs looking for a solid assistant or head coach, give him a call. But today we're going to be talking Celtics finals preview. The Celtics were able to beat off the Heat in 7 games on the road. What a game. But what are our thoughts on that game before we get into the preview?
So all right, that game had me on the edge of my chair the entire time, only because we were up. We never lost the lead. We were up the whole game. But it was never like, oh, we got this, the whole time it was like they are on our tail. And I'm fumbling right now my words because I can't, still losing my mind over it. But every single time, it was just critical mistake over critical mistake. It was just who messed up more. I mean, if you look at,
I was ready for them to lose that game. I was they're gonna blow this. They're gonna blow this.
Oh, at the start of the second quarter, start of the third quarter, I was like, we're done. At 24 free throws in the first half. I was like, we're done. We lose. We just lose the game.
And then know about that Jimmy Butler 3.
I'll be honest, I don't like the shot.
You don't like it?
Really?
Shot. Here's the thing. This is what I'm going to say to this, okay? Jimmy Butler is the best player on that team, hands down, right?
Absolutely.
However, now you're in a situation where you become in transition, right? He had Al Horford on him. There's 17 seconds still left on the clock.
Yeah,
now, the Celtics have proven – what's that?
No shot clock either.
No shot clock either, right? So there's 2 options you get from this, right? The first is you play to your strengths, right? So for Jimmy Butler, it's driving to the rim and obviously getting an and-one if he needs to. The second thing I'm going to say is, even if you were to hit the shot, that gives the Celtics plenty of time to get a good shot off. That doesn't make any sense.
And with all the foul calls, they could have gotten downhill, gotten a foul, and won the game at the free throw line.
1,000%. And honestly, he's been proving this whole series that he can kind of take anybody one-on-one getting to the rack. So I don't know. Yeah. I wasn't a huge fan of that shot. When I'm sitting there watching the game, I'm like, yo, you got to be kidding me. This is how we're gonna end our season with. But at the end of the day, you could have had there was a much better look in 17 seconds than that one.
Well, and then if you think about it, you could have taken that 3 but you could get it realistically in the NBA. You can get an open 3 anytime you want. Jimmy Butler has been a terrible 3-point shooter this season overall. He's done pretty well this series, but this season he's been terrible from
most of his career. He's been pretty bad from 3.
Yeah, but all right, but so he's been pretty bad from 3. You have guys on your team that can shoot the ball really well. If you could have
Strus,
you could have gotten a 3 at the buzzer if you wanted that shot. That's it. You don't want to if you're gonna take a 3, you gotta wait. You don't want the Celtics getting the ball back even if you hit it and that's kind of what you said, Kistner. But so let's get into
real quick. Did you guys see the 3 that they took down from Strus's 3? I didn't see that when that happened.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I was watching that I was watching it when it happened, right? And it was just when he hit the shot, I was like, damn, good shot. But 5 minutes later, that shot's stripped away. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, what shot? And then all of a sudden I look at the replay and I'm sitting there, I'm like, he's in bounds.
No,
that's a shot.
So you can't see the other side of his heel, which in game, if you see his heel, like a ref, if you're looking down at his foot and his foot's like right on that line, you're going to call that out of bounds all day. But my problem, I don't even know how they can review that. I've never seen.
Yeah, I didn't know they could do that. That's the first time I've ever seen that.
That's just a missed
game,
call,
regardless of a playoff
game. That for my thing, that's just a missed call. You can't go back and be like, oh wait, psych.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
What was it? Honestly, it was weird because the whole series, it seemed like there was natures of refs doing stuff that we never seen before, right?
Yeah.
The same thing happened in Game 6. What was that all about?
I don't know. They were honestly the refs. The NBA should be embarrassed by that series.
The biggest thing about that is if you look at the replay, you see Scott Foster behind. I forget who was guarding him, but somebody was coming up on Strus when he was taking that shot. You see his heel hovering above the ground, and you see Scott Foster in the back fully arch back behind him and stare directly at his feet.
Yeah,
So, I mean, we only saw the other side of that. You know what I mean? I didn't see his right foot, but his left foot was not touching the line.
I don't think that
So,
should
like,
be reviewable, personally. Even like as a Celtics fan, that shouldn't be reviewable. You shouldn't be able to take that away. But the bullshit like that I'm hearing from Heat fans saying, "Oh my God, that like we would have won the game if it wasn't for that." Like, I'm like, first of all,
96 to 100.
First of all, that was in the third quarter. Second of all, so like we were up, so that made it a 13-point game, but we were still up 10. Even if you add those 3 points back, we win by 1. Like you could say that about like any missed call in the game, like or
not to mention we almost gave them the cross. As I was going to say, not to mention we almost gave them the game anyway by blowing like a 13-point lead. So Miami had plenty of chances there. I think they they had like 9 missed field goals in a row in the fourth quarter. So they had plenty of opportunities to make that up. They just couldn't convert.
Yeah. And I could point out thousands of missed calls in that series that you could say, oh, change this game, change that game. Like, come on, like you can't play that game because what was it should have been a flagrant foul on Bam, like coming down on Derek White's head, like that they didn't even review. And
it was just called off.
Even if you don't think that's a flagrant, I go back to the Al Horford flagrant on Giannis when he dunked on him and came down on his head when it was just like an accident, but he came straight down on his head like that. Like
it's a dangerous motion.
Exactly.
But they didn't call that. They did not call that technical on him because of the head. They called it because of the excessive celebration, which is the same thing that Giannis did when he dunked on him in the same game.
Oh, really? I thought it was on the elbow down.
No, it had nothing to do with the arm motion because at the end of the day, the arm motion here, it wasn't flagrant for him to come down with it.
Well, I still think it should have been flagrant, but
the one that really pissed me off was the Jason Tatum arm movement that he's going in because everybody does it, right?
Yeah.
I was in game 6. And then Jamie Butler did the same thing in game 7. They didn't call that.
Yeah, that's completely, but he did even more. He was even more. Exactly. He extended on Horford. But great series, stresses me the hell out. I probably aged about 10 years just from that series. But so let's just get into the finals because now we got a Warriors Celtics matchup, Steph Curry versus Jason Tatum. Like this is marquee matchup. This is the series you want. Like you don't want a Maverick Celtics series. You don't want a Heat Warriors series. You want two phenomenal teams, two historic teams in the finals. You want the old dynasty in with the hopefully incoming dynasty. And I think this is great. And both teams have been created by drafting. Like the Warriors are mostly players they drafted. The Celtics are mostly players they drafted. And kind of shuts down the idea that super teams are going to take over the league. So I personally love this matchup. But Harry, what are you thinking about this matchup? First thoughts.
Oh man. So this in my opinion, I haven't been more excited. I mean, obviously I haven't been more excited for a finals in a long time because Celtics are in it. But it's just like the matchup comparison you have for these two teams. We have one of the best defensives we've seen in the NFL and the NBA for like the past 8 to 9 years. And now we have still one of the greatest offensive teams in the league today. They're number one in the playoffs offensive rating league right now for points per game and just how they like play together. And I'm so excited to see how this matchup plays out. I have not been more excited to see Marcus Smart versus Curry. I've not been more excited to see how Jaylen Brown and Derek White can try and control Klay Thompson on the 3. There's so many matchups in this series I'm excited to see. Like if Draymond can actually hold Jason Tatum, which I don't think he can, but there's so many opportunities for just absolutely like iconic moments in the series. And I am thrilled to my bones to watch this on Thursday. I can't wait.
Kistner, first thoughts on the series?
It's going to be interesting to see how their offense matches up with our defense. And that's mainly coming in our switching, right? So I think with a lot of what's going to happen with Jordan Poole, a lot of what's going to happen with Klay and Curry, I mean, you got anywhere from Grant Williams guarding them. Derek White's going to be guarding them. Obviously, most of the time it's going to be Marcus Smart. It's going to be interesting. I think we win the backcourt. I mean, the front court, no matter what. The backcourt's kind of a toss-up, and I think that's just the nature of their offense and the nature of our defense. So I mean, I'll give my full analysis once we get to like who we got and how many games, but
yeah,
that's the biggest thing that I'm looking for. I'm kind of looking forward to see what we do with our defense and how we're going to switch everything.
Aidan.
Yeah, so this has been a series, honestly, that we've been waiting for a long time, right? Dating back to like 2018 with rookie Tatum, second year Brown almost got there against the prime Warriors. But I think this is two really evenly matched teams. The best team in the East, the best team in the West, obviously. But I mean, we have Marcus, they have Draymond, we have Tatum, our superstar. They got obviously Steph Curry on the other side. And yeah, as Kistner was saying, it's going to be really interesting to see how the Celtics switch defense stacks up against the Warriors motion offense, because while the Celtics have played a lot of great teams in these playoffs, they haven't played a beast like the Warriors that are constantly moving, that pretty much everybody can pull from three. So this is going to be the best offense they've played all playoffs. And I think the Celtics defense can hold up, but it will be interesting to see how they guard guys like Curry and Thompson that like they make a couple shots, you're suddenly down 15, 20 points, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the Warriors have what? It's 146 games of finals experience.
123.
123? And the Celtics have 0. It's gonna be I love the way the league is really like pushing the dynamic. It's like literally the old guys versus the new guys, like the young, like brand new, fresh start team coming up on the rise versus the team that's held the crown for years.
I think the Warriors are sneaky young though. Like you got guys like
I agree. Jordan Poole, you have Andrew
young.
Wiggins.
Looney's still pretty young. Even Draymond Green and Clay are still young. Curry's like getting towards the older side, but like you got guys that like are still in their primes, like in this as the Celtics are entering their primes. It's my thing is with the series, I got a little spiel, but like I think people are sleeping on like some of these matchups. Like I think Wiggins' defense is very underrated defensively, and I think that was a big part of his all-star bid is he was also playing well on the defensive end. Like he had like 19 points per game at the all-star break, but like he was doing really well on the defensive end, and I think that's a big reason why he was named an all-star. And so I think that Tatum Wiggins matchup is a very underrated matchup, and I think Tatum's got to be able to have some like some fortitude, like to be able to like not get caught up in like the crap like he did in the last series. Like he kind of shit the bed a couple times, and the rest of the team bailed him out a few times. We got to like he can't do that. He's got to be the superstar we know he is, and we can't have him dropping off the map. Like what with the Warriors is they have so many different weapons that like if Steph Curry sucks one game, Clay could go off or Poole could go off and win them the game. We only have when with that is like most of the time if Tatum doesn't go off, Jaylen Brown might go off, but like you're not going to get a 30-point game out of Al Horford like you did in the Bucks series. Like that's very rarely going to happen. Like in Tatum's got to stop the bullshit, stop complaining, play basketball, up his defense like we know he can and he has in the past. And Marcus Smart's got to play some of the best defenses of his life and got to stay healthy. We can't have guys.
Which he will. At the end of the day, he knows how to play against Steph. Mm-hmm. I mean, the last 5 years, he actually locked them up. It's all because of Marcus. I'm not going to say all because of Marcus, but he's a big part of it. You know?
And my thing, but they gotta lock up across the board. They can't get caught up in like I feel like they've been complaining way too much. I know the refs have been really bad, but you got to expect them to be bad and play through it. A good team can beat bad refs any day. That's what I like to say. And I think Robert, my thing, one thing before you go, Harry, I was saying today to someone, I forget who it was, but the Celtics can't play to the Warriors game. They can't try and match up to the Warriors. We got to make them try and match up to us because we have a huge advantage in the paint. Robert Williams and Al Horford are a better front court than Kevon Looney and Draymond Green. Draymond Green is a phenomenal defender, but he can't cover both those guys. Make them try and adjust to us because they don't have a backup big man. They got to adjust to us in the paint, and we can't feed into trying to match up with them and go small because we're gonna get killed all day if we try and go like small and match up with their guys because their guys, their smaller guys are better than ours. That's my.
I agree. I agree with you when you say like we can't let it turn into their game. Like we need to come into this game with the same energy we came into against the Heat. Like because that Bucks series, we were relentless on defense, and we picked it right back up when we started this game one. I mean, sure, didn't go in our favor, but we need to keep that. We can't slack off on the energy that we've been putting out the entire time just because we're playing a not as aggressive team. You know what I mean? The past two matchups we've had insanely aggressive players against us. So I'm not saying that like, oh, it's going to be like a walk in the park, you know, people aren't going to be like us. It's the finals. There's going to be bodies thrown. And you need to go in with the mindset that like if I'm fouling, I'm gonna make sure it fucking mattered. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna go in there and make stupid plays and mess it up because I got angry at a foul. You know what I mean? Like we're not gonna play the same game that we've been doing for the past 6 games. And the biggest thing is like, yes, Marcus Smart needs to be like huge, and he will, but it has to come from everybody. Like,
yeah,
when Marcus Smart's out, White needs to stay on Curry. And I strongly believe White can't. White's a great defender. But then you have like Grant Williams. When Al Horford comes out, Grant comes in. Grant needs to play up on Clay, on Wiggins, and needs to be like that short 4 threat that he is on defense. And he needs to stay like consistent to the momentum that we're giving out the whole series. And if we don't, and somebody, all it takes is one. That's the biggest thing. All it takes is one person to get lazy or one person to get angry, and it ruins the whole thing. We saw it with Smart when he got upset and he tried to get that easily. He's like, oh man, I cost us, so now I got to make it up. And then he turned the ball over, forced a shot, and all it takes is one.
When I'm looking at some of these matchups, everyone's looking at the Smart Curry matchup. I don't think that's as important as people are making it out to be. From my point of view, I think you can let Steph's going to do what he does. If you you don't let him do it, but like, if you like let him do his thing, as long as you hold Clay and Poole from big scoring nights, Steph can do his thing. As long as we contain everyone else, because that's what we kind of did with the Bucks. Like Giannis was doing his thing, like scoring 30, 40 points a game, but we contained everyone else mostly from big games, which was how we were able to win, because Giannis can go out there and score 40, but if the rest of his team's only scoring like 40 to 50, like they're going to lose. Like as long as you are able to contain some of those other threats, you'll be fine, because Draymond Green's not going to have a 30-point game. He's not going to beat us offensively. Kevon Looney probably won't beat us offensively. Rob Williams will probably lock that up. Like you got to make sure you focus on Clay and Poole, and even Wiggins. Wiggins can go off a couple, like we've seen it a few times in these playoffs. But yeah, I think that Steph Smart matchup, it's going to be fun to watch, but you can't get down if like Steph's scoring 30, but like we're locking up everyone else. You can't put that on Smart. That's a really tough matchup for Smart. Like even the defensive player of the year is going to struggle against some guys. Like you've seen like Rudy Gobert in past years, like, yeah, defensive player of the year, but he's getting cooked by some of these other guys that like you can't do anything about it. Sometimes a player's just good.
So I have 3 main takeaways with how this series is going to play out for both teams, right? First one is ball security. Both teams have had a lot of turnovers in all 3 of their series. I mean, granted, obviously the Celtics have played worse teams, or better teams, I should say. They've had a much crazier run. They've had a much crazier final run than I think the Warriors have, right?
I was gonna say the Celtics matchups were harder.
Yeah.
I mean, worse. I was like, oh my god. So if we
that's a take.
Yeah, right. So the Warriors right now are averaging around 17 turnovers a game in those losses that they've had, right? They're about 13.6 if you want to make it even, right? That's just overall. The Celtics are at 13.3 turnovers per game, and that's just overall in the postseason. So if both teams can limit their turnovers, that's obviously going to help them out, right? Which brings me to the next point in terms of their runs, right? The Warriors do a really good job of running away with games because of the runs that they're able to make in late game situations, right? So for the Celtics to be able to like stop the bleeding on things like that, we've seen it, but we haven't seen it enough. Like we got way too inconsistent with Miami in terms of that.
Well,
right?
they did it really well in the Nets series because every time the Nets would make a run, but then the Bucks, they did it most of the time, and then the Heat, I felt like they weren't doing it. Like
No, not
they,
even
they were letting him get back in the games, but the Heat just weren't able to finish it half the time, which is a concern.
Yep.
And the biggest thing with the turnovers, sorry, coach. The biggest thing with the turnovers, real quick, is it's not coming from like, you know, just like the other guys on the court. It's coming from the superstars. Like Tatum's averaging 4.3 turnovers a game. Curry's averaging 2.6. And it's the big name guys that need to hold the ball the most. And you see it all the time with Jaylen Brown messing up his dribbles. You see it all the time with Jason Tatum forcing down the court.
Dribble the basketball. It scares me every time.
Oh my God.
All right, hold on.
Yeah, no, back to you, coach.
This is what's interesting with the Jaylen Brown situations.
Mm-hmm.
What the Heat are able to do that's so much better than every other team in the NBA is how they come about their help defense. They send a lot of guys from the strong side rather than the weak side, right? Obviously, it's more stunt than anything else, but they're still sending him. So a lot of the times when Jaylen Brown you have a swarm of guys that come in. Most of that's coming from the strong side, which is not what he's used to. So,
but he's got to
obviously, yes, hold him accountable by all means. But at the end of the day, like Miami did that on purpose. There was a reasoning behind the methodology with him.
But that's the point of film and adjusting. That's my thing.
100%.
Yeah, see weakness, take advantage.
Be able to adjust and not do it 7 games in a row. Like, and I don't know. I really like Brown, and everyone's trying to like. He had a pretty good series, but like he almost killed us. He killed us a few times, just like in big moments, like not being able to handle the ball very well.
His shooting in big moments has been absolutely critical to our playoff run. Yeah, absolutely critical.
He has been shooting pretty well, but like half the time he can't even get the shots off because he's losing the ball off his foot.
And he takes the same mid-range fade every single game, and I swear I'm yet to see one go in every single game.
No, he hits a lot of those.
He hits a lot of those. Yeah, he hits a shit.
Am I only just seeing the ones that he misses? Because I swear I see him.
I feel like a lot of the
front of the free throw line and brick.
I feel like a lot of the misses come in important times, but he hits a lot of them when it's like either doesn't matter or they're already up or like
it's like downtime in between, you know.
But let's get into some of the just specific matchups like we do for all of our pre-series. We'll go look at the matchups, say who's better, kind of like we'll see how that works. It's probably going to be a lot of Warriors just because of the history, but I like to do it. So when we look at the point guard, what
you can argue both cases. In the last 5 years, you can argue both cases for this.
Yeah, you could.
I mean, if you look at Curry's shooting percentage, he's shooting not only the worst he has since 2016. He's made the least amount of field goals since 2015. He shot and made the least amount of shots since 2015.
Now, is that on his season average?
No, that's on his postseason, pure postseason. And in the playoffs, this is the worst postseason he's had since 2015.
Okay.
So all right. So when we look in Smart versus Curry, I mean Curry's probably the better one in this matchup, but definitely a fun matchup to watch. So just kind of if you want to if you have a thought behind the matchup, you can give it, but give your pick and maybe a short reason to why. So I get Curry. I think he's obviously the better player, but Aidan, you want to go?
Yeah. So, I mean, got to give Marcus his respect here. Defensive player of the year, the heartbeat of the team. He does so much for the Celtics that just doesn't show up on the stat sheet in terms of he always finds a way. Like, I swear, whenever he makes a stupid turnover on offense, he always gets it back on defense. He'll draw a charge, he'll get an important steal. Like, he'll always find a way to make it up. But this is Steph Curry we're talking about on the other side of the ball. Quite possibly the greatest point guard of all time, especially if he does beat the Celtics in this series. So I got to go Steph Curry over Marcus, but definitely don't rule out Marcus playing great defense on Steph in this series or even being able to limit his production as best you can anyway.
Coach?
If I'm looking at a scale of like -10 to +10 in favor of either one, I'm going to give Steph Curry maybe a +2 in this. It's not as big as we think. Marcus Smart has been proven to lock up guys when he needs to. And to go off of what you were saying earlier in terms of his field goal percentage over the, since 2015. I'm very curious to see what that number is with possessions on just with Marcus Smart. And that's over the course, since 2017, that run they made with Isaiah Thomas. Like I said, I know how Steph is. I know how he plays his game. I think it's going to be a little more tough now that you have Clay and Jordan Poole both on offense to work around with. But, I mean, at the end of the day, though, like, Marcus Smart's a dog. He knows how to play. And I'm giving a slight edge to Steph, but it's not as much as people think.
Yeah. So I'll give I say Curry. I just think he's the better player, but Smart's going to be very important. Harry, you got thoughts?
All right. So here's the big thing for me, right? Because this, to me, is not the most important matchup in the series. It's not. But I do sway it in Curry's favor, only because Curry's the better shooter, better player, better overall around guard. You know what I mean? But Marcus Smart is most certainly going to give him the hardest time he's seen in a very long time in a series. And I'm talking postseason, playoffs, finals, everything combined. This is going to be the hardest playoffs matchup he's had in a very, very long time. And I'm more than excited to see how Marcus Smart can hold himself against it, because I know he will. But I have to give it to Curry in this aspect.
Yeah, and so now moving on to the shooting guard position, we got Clay versus Jaylen Brown. I think they're going to guard each other. Clay may end up on Tatum, but I think it's mostly going to be Wiggins. So I'm going to go Clay, Jaylen Brown, just for the sake of the argument. Hot take: I'm going Jaylen Brown in this matchup. Clay, I mean, he's had a few good games in this postseason, but he's still coming off that injury. He hasn't fully been consistent. And I think Jaylen Brown, he's playing pretty well. If he can clean up those turnovers, I think he wins this matchup. And I think him on the defensive end is going to be critical, being able to contain Clay and try and give him a tough time. So I'm going to go Jaylen Brown. You can say I'm a green teamer, but I really think, Clay is definitely the better player all time. He may be the better player next year, but I just think right now he's still trying to adjust. He hasn't played in a couple of years. I know he's been back for a little while now, and you've seen him in the Game 6 Clay, but I don't think he's been consistent enough to take the edge over Jaylen Brown. Kistner, you want to go?
This is an even matchup for me.
Even? You're going to go wash on this one?
Dead even. Yeah, I'm washing it out.
Yeah, that's not a bad take. I could definitely see that. Harry, what do you got?
This, like I said, Marcus Smart Curry was not the most important matchup. Hot take: this is the most important matchup in the series to me. This one right here, because I strongly believe it's gonna solely come down to which of these two guys plays better. That turns the tide for the team.
That's very either guy can turn the scale for both.
Exactly. Because like I said, Curry hasn't been doing as well as he has the past 6 years. You know what I mean? And you take Clay coming back from injury, super hyped to play, and he's playing pretty damn decent. He's averaging 19.8 in the playoffs. Jaylen Brown's averaging more, but he's also averaging more turnovers and a less field goal percentage. So when it comes down to it, which of these guys pops off each night, or which of these guys contributes more each night, or which of these guys makes more mistakes each night is what's going to turn the tide of the series. And I can't, Coach, like you said, I can't pick who. It just solely depends on each of their guys has their flaws, each of their guys has their strength. It just solely depends on who's comes out stronger.
I like this take. Aidan, what do you got?
I actually don't think that's much of a hot take there, Cross. I'm going to give a slight edge to Jaylen Brown in this matchup, mainly for the reasons that you guys said, being Clay coming back from injury. He just hasn't been he's been good, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't been the Klay Thompson we all know, right, from 2017-18. But I think that the big difference is if Jaylen Brown can limit the turnovers, he has the playmaking advantage over Klay Thompson in terms of setting up teammates, being able to, get his teammates in good positions for high-quality shots. And that's just something that Klay doesn't do, because usually that's Steph Curry's job or Draymond, who I think averaged a 7-7-7 season this year. So I think that if Jaylen can stop dribbling the ball off of his leg or making stupid turnovers like that, I think he has a slight advantage, but this definitely is going to be an important matchup for determining who takes this series for sure.
Mm-hmm. So now we go on to this small forward, Tatum versus Wiggins. You got to go Tatum in this matchup, but this is my matchup of the series. Personally, I think if Wiggins can contain Tatum and Tatum plays like some of the games he did against the Heat, the Celtics are done for. But if Tatum plays as well as we know he can, he's going to win us this series. He's going to win us a banner 18. So this is my matchup of the series, and I'm going Tatum in this one. I think he's going to step up to the challenge, and that's what I got for you. Aidan, you want to go?
Yeah, I got Tatum in this one as well. I think that there's one thing we learned about Jason Tatum in these playoffs. It's that when the spotlight's on, it's game 7, it's an elimination game, he rises to the occasion. He ups his game, and he not only that, but he ups the game of his teammates. I just think back to game 7 against the Bucks, for example. Everybody kind of had counted us out at that point, even though we had just won game 6 and we're going back to the Garden. People were like, well, they have Giannis. They're going to find a way to win. But not only did Tatum play really well in that game, was very efficient shooting the ball, he set up Grant Williams for that game that we all refer to now as the game 7 Grant game. So I think that Tatum has shown that when he needs to be great, he can be great. He can outplay guys like KD, Giannis, future Hall of Famers. So I think that against a guy like Andrew Wiggins, who is a quality plus defender, I think he's going to up his game way more so than he did in the Heat series, and he'll take a decisive advantage in this matchup.
Yeah, he's got to be a playmaker. Even if his shot's not there, he's got to be able to create shots, because even if he can't shoot the ball, he's still going to be a threat to those Warriors. So he's got to be able to adjust his game, which we've seen him do. And when he does that, honestly, I think he plays better because it opens up his game and when he starts going to the hoop, that's when you know he's going to have a good game, is when he starts getting consistent inside. That's when it opens up his jump shot. So that's what I look for. Coach, what do you got for me?
Going Tatum. You got to go Tatum in this. I think as much as inconsistent we've seen him in these playoffs, I think that this is the easiest matchup he's faced so far in these finals or in these playoff series, no matter what. I think Wiggins can do some damage, but I think just because of the nature of Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, and Steph, we're not going to see much out of him.
Harry, we got the clean sweep of Tatum with you?
Yeah. I mean, it's Jason Tatum. When it comes down to it, that's our superstar. You know what I mean? Like, that's the guy that we rely on in those crucial moments. That's the guy that we depend on to make those shots, make those plays, see that look, see that pass, drive to the offensive board and get the and one. You know what I mean? Like, this is Jason Tatum. And this is, quite frankly, Jason Tatum in his best season, best postseason outing he's had in his career. I mean, yeah, the turnovers are there, the simple mistakes are there, but the points, the field goal percentage, like, everything is just, it's all Tatum's way right now. You can't go wrong looking at him. But the big thing that worries me is we saw him go against like guys like KD, like Jimmy Butler. Like, we saw him match up against them, and yeah, sure, it was tough, but he made it work. What we also saw is we saw guys like PJ Tucker playing fantastic defense on Jason Tatum, and just that being in his mindset. PJ Tucker's 37 years old.
Hot take, I don't think PJ Tucker's defense was shit. I think Tatum was getting all the open shots he wanted, was just missing everything. That's just a hot take that I have. I think it was just a lot of antics where you saw him get up in his grill, but I feel like Tatum was getting all the shots he wants. He just couldn't hit anything. But continue.
That's another thing I mean by like getting in his head, because that was like PJ Tucker's kind of way of getting at him. You know what I mean? But now we have a faster guy. Now we have a younger guy. Now we have a like arguably stronger guy in Andrew Wiggins that knows how to play really good defense. And I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think it's going to provide some issues along the way or annoyances, but this is Tatum. Like, it's Andrew Wiggins. Like, no shot to Andrew Wiggins. He's playing phenomenal ball, like probably the best he's had since like the early years of his career. But it's Jason Tatum.
Mm-hmm. So now we go to the power forward. Green versus Horford. I think Green's a better player, better defender. No shot at Al. I think Al's been phenomenal for us. I think Draymond's just a whole package playmaker, kind of plays the point for them sometimes, able to facilitate, play his defense, rebound the ball. I think Draymond might end up on Tatum a little bit, but I think for the most part he'll stay at that 4. But my thing with Draymond is I think he's an X factor for those Warriors because if you listen to his podcast, which I do, he talks a lot about the Celtics and he's a huge fan of the Celtics team. He like raves about them all the time, which concerns me because that also means he's watching them a lot. He knows what they do. He knows the like the roster. He knows like their strengths, their weaknesses, and I think he's gonna help. He's gonna help expose that with his game. He's gonna help train his teammates because he's a really good leader, and I think he's gonna be in that locker room preaching to them about all like the ways to beat us, which is my biggest concern. I think he's a huge X factor in this series, just from a leadership aspect and how smart of a basketball player he is because people give him shit for all his stupid antics and crap, but he's a really smart player. He's talented. He's like I call him like I liked it when we drafted Grant Williams. I thought Grant Williams was going to be our Draymond Green, and then
I was just about to say that actually.
Then he sucked, and I hated Grant Williams. And then this year he's kind of redeemed himself in my mind. But I wouldn't say they're the same player, but like. He's a better version of Grant Williams, and he doesn't even have to score the ball. All he has to do is facilitate, get guys open, and play defense and rebound the basketball. And I think that's my biggest worry. Kistner, what do you got on Draymond versus Horford?
The only reason I'm giving Draymond the edge here is finals experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right. I think both of them are anchors for both of their respective systems. I just think just with the nature of the big lights, I think Draymond has the edge in that series.
All right, Harry, what do you got? Quick thoughts.
I'm going Horford, and that's not even just being like green biased. It's just he's waited years and years and years and years and so many games that he hasn't seen this moment. Now that he's finally in this finals aspect, now that he's finally gotten to the one place he's wanted to be his entire career and has come so close yet so far, there's no shot in hell that he's not going to play the best basketball that he quite possibly physically can. And it really comes down to mindset. Like, yeah, if you look at like this match, I love this matchup actually because you have Al Horford, the heart of the team, and you have Draymond Green, the heart of the team. You know what I mean? It's the heart. It's heart v heart right now. It's the OGs versus the OGs, and it's really just going to come down to who wants it more. And quite frankly, I feel like Al does. There's no way. All right, there's not no way, but it really just depends on who wants it more to me because they're both phenomenal players. They both can do great things. I say Al's a better scorer. Draymond's definitely a better defender, but they're both like the sole motivation for their teams right now.
Aidan, what we got?
I'm tempted to call this one a wash. I'm going to give a slight edge to Draymond just over his assist numbers and playmaking ability because he averages just a few points less than Al does. But I think the big thing he does more so than Al, not that Al doesn't do it, but he is so good at just hitting those Warriors screeners and in their motion offense, all their wings on their cuts. He can hit anybody really at any point on the floor. He's so good. He has great court vision, great IQ, as you were saying, Cross. He can find anybody anywhere for a good shot. And Horford is a good playmaker as well, but not on the level that Draymond is. And I think that's the difference. But Al Horford is an amazing player. I think he is going to rise to the occasion being able to play for a championship that he's never had the opportunity to do that before. So I wouldn't be shocked if this becomes a wash or Horford actually has an advantage in this if he can up his scoring numbers just a little bit and provide even more of an impact than he already is providing the Celtics. Yeah. But I'm going to give a slight advantage to Draymond. I don't think this matchup will determine the outcome, but it certainly will be one to look after.
Yeah, and now we go to the center. Robert Williams versus Kevon Looney. I think this is pretty simple for me. Robert Williams, I think he's quicker, and I think he's just a better player, better shot blocker, better defender. I think he's a versatile defender. He can kind of step out on some of those guards, and just playing the lob game is going to be huge for him if he can stay healthy, hopefully. But yeah, Aidan, you want to give us your quick thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, I have big advantage to Rob Williams and the Celtics here. I think people sleep on him a little bit. And people don't realize, looking back at the Heat series, he kind of clamped Bam, like a healthy Rob on him. The one game that Bam went off, I think it was game 3, I believe.
Robert Williams went out.
Yeah,
Rob Williams was out. And then game 7, he was kind of hobbled, had to come out and only played 15 minutes, and that's when Bam went off. So Rob's had a couple tough matchups in the past couple of rounds with Bam. Bam's still an all-star player. And he had to deal with the whole Giannis thing the round before, and Brook Lopez is also a solid option at the 5. But this is going to be the easiest matchup he's had in a little while, probably since Nick Claxton in the first round. So I think I would expect Rob to have a pretty big series. And not a lot of people are talking about him right now, either due to his injury or just he hasn't been scoring as much, so the media hasn't been covering it as much as they had been. But I think this is going to be an important series for Rob and could really help define his legacy moving forward if he has a big series.
Yeah, and Harry, quick thought.
+10, -10, Rob will +8. Like this is it. It's his matchup to lose. Like everything's pointing in his direction right now. He's just a better overall player, honestly, offensively and defensively. Like inside, you can't stop a guy that size. I don't think anybody on the Warriors starting 5 is going to be able to really control Rob Will. I think he's going to be a big star in this series. That's just Robert Williams.
Kistner?
I'm going Robert Williams by 10. However, I'm going to say this, and I think that this is really important for how Ime Udoka wants to set up his matchups. There's going to be a lot of times where we might not see either one of them on the floor. I think he will go small at some point in the series just to kind of see what happens.
Grant Williams at the 5?
Right.
Oh, yeah. I agree
At the
completely.
5, one of those two. And honestly, the problem that we're going to face with this team is that because of how well they're able to run in transition, Rob Williams might become a liability. But we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I think because of his defensive specialty, I think he's going to protect the paint. But they're not a paint team. That's the problem.
No, not even close.
With this Warriors team, so
which was my point earlier when I was saying I don't think we should play to their game. I think they should play to ours. That's why I don't want them to go small. I want us to be beating them so bad in the paint that they have to try and adjust to us, which is why. But continue, Kistner. Sorry.
Ross, you're not wrong. The only thing I'm going to say in terms of an argument to that is that because of how well they are transitionally, we might have to go small. That's going to be the problem with that. You know what I mean? That's
even
the
if
only
we go small. Even if we go small, I think you got to put Robert Williams at the 5. I mean, even if you go four small guys, like you put White, Smart, Tatum, and Brown, I think you got to go Rob Williams at the 5. Because you got to keep that big man on the floor.
We are going to see a very effective lineup with Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, Tatum, Brown, and either Smart or Robert Williams, one of those two. There's a good chance that we see a lineup like that in the series.
I think Peyton Pritchard is going to be huge. I think I love Peyton Pritchard. Yeah, it comes down to that. Peyton Pritchard could be huge for this series because
if he's not hitting shots, he's going to sit his ass on the bench.
If we're going to play to their game, Peyton Pritchard is going to be huge for this series. Like how he plays, it's most crucially going to be huge because Derek White can clamp Clay. Not worried about it. If we take Marcus Smart out and keep like Rob Will in with that small 5, which I don't hate at all. I actually really enjoy the thought of it. Peyton Pritchard's got to be huge. It's his time. If he wants to show up, it's his time.
So I'm gonna add into that because this is where I think the biggest matchup of the series is going to be. Okay, it's going to be the combination of Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, and Grant Williams against a healthy or unhealthy Gary Payton Jr., Damian Lee, and Jordan Poole. That's determining how the series will be played out. Our bench against their bench, because we know what the starters can do, right? We know that they're very evenly matched in terms of defense and offense, but like we have to stay healthy. They have to stay healthy, and both of our benches got to be able to do and be effective in their own little way.
I thought Gary Payton was out. Is Gary Payton potentially?
He's out.
Everyone's practicing right now.
Oh, really?
Gary Payton Jr., Iguodala, and Otto they're all practicing this week.
That's pretty cool.
They're all listed as
much as I'd like him not to play. That's pretty cool that he's back because that was a terror. Like terrible for him. And like, I'm happy he's going to get an opportunity to play in the finals. I wish it wasn't against the Celtics, but good for him. But so let's kind of each give our final thoughts. This went very long, but it was a very good conversation. So I didn't want to cut us off at any point. But let's give our thoughts. I was going to talk about those small lineup, so but we got that out of the way. So I'll just give my prediction in a quick thought. I think it's either going to be Celtics in 6 or Warriors in 7. So it's going to be one of those two, because I don't think the Celtics are going to win a road game 7 on like against the Warriors. I think it's either Celtics win in 6 or not at all. They're not going to beat them in 5. They're not going to beat them in 4. Like you got to win in 6. You better not get to a game 7 in Golden State, or I'm going to be very worried. They're going to play their game. They can't have all the antics. I can't watch Grant Williams go like this one more time. I can't. I think actually Tatum's been better about it, but like watching Grant Williams complain all game has been torturous. I think they just gotta stay focused, stay the path, do what the coach says. Can't get caught up in all the stuff surrounding the finals. They gotta play their game, not succumb to the pressure. So I got Celtics in 6, and if they don't do that, it's gonna be Warriors in 7. Kistner, you want to go?
I'm the same. I said the same exact thing. Either Celtics in 6 or Warriors in 7. I do not see us beating them in Golden State game 7. I just don't see it. I think, and honestly, a lot of that has to do with their experience, you know? I think what's going to separate us in this series is what Ime is able to do adjustment-wise. But we have to be able to take care of both game 3 and game 4 at home. We have to try to steal game 1, and then we have to win both game 3 and 4. I do not want to lose one of those 2 games at home to start.
I actually agree. I think 1 is crucial just because both teams are coming off. You got to steal 1 before game 2, because I just think game 2 is going to be like Warriors are either going to bounce back like or if they lose in game 1, or if they win in game 1, they're going to be so confident that they're just going to run away with it. But yeah,
and the reason I'm going to say game 1 too is because you got guys like, Gary Payton Jr. and Otto Porter. If they end up getting pretty big minutes, which I think their minutes will start to increase once we kind of get into game 3. Game 1's the game to steal because they're still going to have some rust. You're not going to see rust out of Andre Iguodala, Otto Porter, and Gary Payton once we get into like game 4 and 5. So you got to be able to steal 1 early.
Yeah, Harry.
I actually disagree. I don't hate the takes. I think they're very logical. I just like the way I've been looking at it, and the way I've seen this series so far. Like not this series, just playoffs for the Celtics. Without their back against their wall, they get comfy. I think the Celtics win this in 7, or they don't win it. When it's game time, win or go home, they put absolutely everything they have into the court, and I don't think they do that. Something's telling me they're not going to do it. Some we're going to lose game 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. We're going to win 3, lose 4, and then we're going to clean streak the last 3. Just back against the wall. I'm very scared about the series because I do think we will lose. I think realistically I'm going to say it's going to be Warriors in 6. But if it doesn't go to a 7, the Celtics lose. That's how it may be a super hot take, but just watching them play with their backs against the wall, they put their entire life into that court. And I think that's what we need. And I don't think we're going to see it if they get comfortable.
Aidan?
Before the playoffs began on our offbeat predictions, I had Celtics in 6 over Warriors in the NBA Finals. And I'm not going to switch up now. I'm going to stick with my original prediction of Celtics in 6. And as you guys were saying, game 1 is critical. Not only if the Celtics, because they've been playing more recently than the Warriors, they can kind of, they're more in the flow of things. That makes sense. They've been playing more recently. They don't have as much rust on them as the Warriors do. But if you take game 1 in their place, you put a lot of pressure on them to take game 2 because they know you got to fly across the country to Boston, different time zone. I know it's a couple days in between, but that makes a difference. Like they haven't played in Boston in a while. They only play there once a year. And the TD Garden crowd, first finals game in over a decade. Like
it's gonna be.
Tickets are so expensive. The stadium might be empty. The arena might be empty with those ticket prices.
So I think that the Celtics will grab their 2 home games. I think they steal one of the first 2 games in Golden State. They'll take the series, provided that they feed off of the crowd. They get Grant Williams and Peyton Pritchard going at home with the fans supporting them. I think they'll win the series in 6, but I don't like our chances if we have to go back there game 7 in Golden State, because just Steph, Clay, the championship experience, they know how to get it done in big games. They've beaten LeBron multiple times in final series. So they've gone up against the best and they've beaten the best. And I don't want to test that on the road, especially with our inexperienced team in terms of finals games, you know.
Yeah, and I just couldn't be happier for the series. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Warriors team. I'm a big Steph Curry guy. So see my 2 favorite teams go at it. It's gonna be fun. Obviously, I'm a Celtics guy first. Like right now, it's F the Warriors. Like screw it. And I don't want to see the Warriors win, but it's just like as a basketball fan, it's gonna be a fun series. And if the Celtics can play their game and just not succumb to the pressure, they're gonna be fine. And they've had the Warriors number lately. And I think like if you look at the matchup during the year where Steph got hurt in that game, even before Steph got hurt in that game, the Celtics were beating them pretty good. Like they were doing really well. Like, and I think if they play like that, this Warriors team's not is going to be surprised and not going to be able to handle that. If you get up on the Warriors, I think that they're going to be like frantically coming from behind. And I don't think that's where they want to be, because every time they've been in the finals, they usually get up. So they're not used to coming from behind. So if you can get in front, I think that's key. So that's about all we got. I know that was a pretty long episode. So if you listen to this
before we cut it off here,
I
would like to say, regardless of what happens in this next series, this has been the most entertaining Celtics season I've watched for as long as I can remember. I have loved every single second from January to now. Edge of my seat on losing close games and blowing the opposition out. Even if we lose, fantastic season. I'm not disappointed in this season. First season head coach, the guys, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, showed they could play together. I'm so proud of the Celtics and how they played.
I'm going to go off of that too. In the beginning of the season, I had a bet with my roommate that if the Celtics won 51 games, he would owe me a burrito at Bueno Isano in Springfield, which is a Chipotle on steroids. I'm telling you, this place is amazing. I'll be an extra marketing scheme for you guys next show. You know, get a little shout out to Bueno Isano. Now, if they won 49 games, I would owe him a burrito. Obviously, 50 is the push. You kind of just, we call it a wash. So, regardless of what happens in the series, I haven't gotten that burrito yet, and I'm very excited for it, regardless. So, that's what we're doing, baby.
All right. That was a great episode. Thank you, Kistner, for hopping on with us. It's been fun. So everyone, go check us out on Instagram at @offbeat_sports. This episode was brought to you by Celsius, so go check them out. Check us out on TikTok at Offbeat Sports. We've been killing it on there. So let's go Celtics. Going to be a fun one.